Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Today we are going to go over the shelving build. I've been getting a lot of questions and whatnot on how I did it, what I used, and where I got the parts, and what parts specifically. And I always have to keep stopping what I was doing to answer questions. I'm always glad to help anybody, and I always put that on every single post that I make. But this is just going to make it easier for everybody. So, again, please tune in. Please subscribe if you didn't already do it. And we're going to go underway here with the shelf build, as you can see behind me. So, built about, I think it's 9 or 10 shelves now. Each shelf holds anywhere from 60 to 66 figures, depending on how I smash them together or give them a little, spacing and whatnot. Tried to make the most of my time. The shelves are 10 feet long. The room itself was about 10 and a half feet long. So I got the shelf that would fit, basically, with not much room left over. The shelves itself, again, 10 feet long, 5.5 feet deep, 5.5 inches deep, and about an inch thick. They were made by Royal Building Products. They're PVC boards. They're not the typical wood. They were pricey, $36 each. But the big guarantee was they won't peel, they won't paint fleck, and they won't warp or bend over time. So living in South Florida, definitely advantageous to get something that wouldn't warp under heat. Not that this house is hot or anything, but you never know over time what happens to wood. So with that, we got about 8 or 9, possibly 10 boards behind me, shelves. Each shelf 60 to 66 figures per shelf. And then what I did was I saw it online. I saw somebody in the group, and they had this amazing display in their house. And I don't like biting off people, but I appreciate things, and I love the display. And I said to myself, how can I make it better? How can I make it mine, my idea, my, originality? So I wanted to just dress it up a little bit. So I went to looking around Home Depot. I'm always wandering aimlessly around Home Depot and Lowe's at night and on the weekends looking for ideas. And you'll see that in the next video series coming up regarding the arena build. And if you haven't seen it, definitely subscribe so you can see that. But first off, I went looking and I was like, you know what? I got to do something to keep these figures from tipping over. I would wake up in the morning and 1 or 2, sometimes 3 figures were on the ground. And it was killing me. So I was like, I need to do something. 'Cause not all the figures are on stands yet. Ringside refuses to sell more than like 10 or 20 boxes. And I have over 550 figures back here, so I need a lot. So, and it's costly too. So I wanted to figure out something that I could do to prevent these figures from tipping over. And the answer to that was, let's make this look like a ring. Let's make this look like ring ropes. Ring ropes are going to prevent the figures from tipping forward, thus falling on the ground and having to worry about possibly breaking or losing an accessory or here and there. So went around Home Depot and I got these square dowels. They are 3 feet long, and the size of them is about 5/8 of an inch thick. So not thick at all. They were about $2.50 a piece, and I got 4 a shelf. I cut them down about 6.5 inches each one, and I have 4 posts on each shelf. I niched out about an inch onto the bottom because that's how thick my shelf is, a little L. So I went in about 3/4 of that 5/8, and basically enough room to put the screw in that it wouldn't bust, and split the wood. So it was secure enough, but enough to mount the screw into the wood and go in deep enough. So cut each post down, and I'll post pictures of the progress at the end of the video as well. Each one 6.5 inches. I believe it's 6.5. And again, I got probably about 10 or 12 of these posts to accommodate the 4 per shelf. If you're going to be using a shorter shelf, maybe an 8-foot, they do make 8-foot varieties and they make 12-foot. As much as I would have loved to have the 12-foot, fortunately, just didn't have the room. So if you go with an 8-foot, probably put one of these posts every 3 feet. I think with the 10-foot, I went every 2.5, 3 feet. So, just with basically a nice balance. So what I did was then after I found the tiniest drill bit I can get. I drilled 1.5 inches from the top, every 1.5 inches down, and tiny little hole, and I put these eyelets in. This is another question I get asked a lot. What size? They're the 216 zinc. They're eyelets. If you look in there, you can kind of see what they look like. And that basically serves as my turnbuckles. This pack, you get 100 of them for a little about around $8. So not a whole lot of money there. The shelves are expensive. Like I said, $36 a pop. But you don't have to replace them every couple of years when they warp or anything. So it's peace of mind, and it just do it once. I don't have to do it again until I decide to move, maybe. So Lowe's, Home Depot has these again, $8 for a thing of 100. More than enough. Painted the posts royal blue. I use Krylon because Krylon dries super quick. I've never had really good luck with Rust-Oleum, but the Krylon dried super quick. I used the royal blue, as close as I can get to those WWF ring posts as I could. And as you can see behind me here, pretty damn close. So with that, I got everything painted, and then I mounted the eyelets into the little holes that I did. They're so tiny, it's hard to hand screw them in, so that's why I felt the need to drill them in. Just made it a lot easier, a lot quicker, and went right in like butter. So mounted those. Again, put the screws, mounted all the posts on the boards, and I should have did it before the figures were on there, but in hindsight, it kept tipping over and falling, so whatnot. And then the next thing what I did was, after all the posts were mounted, I went to Joann, Michaels, Hobby Lobby all carries it as well, and I got the 550 parachute cord. I just thought it was the right thickness. It wasn't too thin, it wasn't too thick. Got 100-foot bags of red, white, and blue, typical standard of the ring ropes. Each bag was about $14 a bag, but again, if you use the coupons, I know Joann's and Hobby Lobby have a 40% off coupon. Michael's not so much. They give you 20% off. So try to use what you can and try to make the project as cost effective as possible. So I got the 550 and I ran it through. And what I did was I couldn't figure out how to put the knots at the end. The rope was fraying and just wasn't really that appealing looking. So I went back to Hobby Lobby. They got tired of seeing me after a little bit. And true story, I actually had security guards following me around. They thought I was up to something. I was in there so much, but I guess that's what you get. I went in the jewelry section and I bought crimpers. They're little metal, they look like a V. I'll show you. I wish I had one loose, but unfortunately I used them all. And then you just squeeze them with a wrench or a pair of pliers and they crimp down. So I got ones wide enough that they wouldn't go through the loophole. I crimped one end, I ran the bottom rope, the blue rope, all the way through, pulled it taut, crimped that end. Repeated the process for the white, repeated the process for the red. So as you can see behind me here, right there. I didn't want them too high up on the wrestlers, only because I didn't want to take away from the wrestlers. I wanted the figures to actually stand out. But again, this does prevent the tipping. It's right above the knees, onto the thighs, so no problems at all. Haven't been a problem since I put them up. So that's always a good thing. The screws on the middle, I put 3/4 of an inch self-tapping screws. On the ends, I went a little deeper because I used those same 3/4, and I noticed that the posts started to, a little bit over time and sag and whatnot. And I just figured that I looked at it, and the posts were, because it's PVC, it's not wood, the posts were a little loose and the screw just wasn't deep enough. So I pulled all those out. I replaced them with 1.5 inch, 1.75 inch screws, and I tapped them in there. So I haven't had any problems with that since. My only thing that I would probably do differently is, again, if I could have found those LJN wrestling ring ropes, something elastic, and I looked and I couldn't find them at all. Because again, I'm going to need 120 inches at a minimum without the stretch, 105 to 110. So if I use it and pull it, I'll have enough room and it'll stay taut. but I couldn't find them anywhere. Contacted a couple guys online that, you know, made the ring ropes, and it seemed like I was asking $1,000,000 question. Nobody really understood what I was trying to do. And I'm like, obviously you make the ring ropes, just sell me a pair that's not cut. You know, sell me a pair that's cut, not attached. I don't want the square, I just want a straight rope. But apparently that was too much to ask for. So I ended up getting the parachute cord, but again, 550 parachute cord. And then basically just mounted the figures. I'm going to be doing a series, probably like 8 or 9 different videos, and we're going to go and I'm going to showcase each row one by one of the figures I have on there. Again, it's about 550 figures. You know, I got rings and cages, you know, everything here. So we're going to be doing a lot of, this is wrestling room number 2. The arena's in the other room. You know, that in itself is going to be the next video. I'll get a lot of questions regarding what I used on that build and whatnot. So, but if you have any questions, like always, hit me up. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share if you can. Again, I'm doing this for you guys. I want to, you know, kind of share my builds with you. I was inspired by a lot of people out there's collections and their builds and their setups and everything, and that's what got me heavily involved. I used to collect LJNs, and it just got to a point where, you know, I had everything, and, you know, maybe with all the customs, 150, there really wasn't much more to do, and it was harder to work with the bodies because they're so rubber and whatnot. And this just was more fun. They had a lot of figures that were actually out there already, and, you know, people making custom heads and body parts and figures and clothing and, you know, all different aspects of these things. And it made it fun. It made me fun to recollect my childhood. Everything behind you is everything Attitude Era and pre. Nothing post, nothing new. I'm not a big fan of the new wrestling except the AEW line. I bought those. But everything, you know, Attitude Era back. I got some ECW. I got some New Japan. I got FMW. I got AWA, World Class, Old School NWA, WCW, you know, WWF Golden Era, Classics. So a lot of stuff that, you know, we grew up watching, and I really wanted to emulate that. And just seeing so many of these, you know, collections on Instagram and, you know, on Facebook, it just kept pushing me to do better and keep building this collection, and just, you know, to the point where it's at. And, you know, I'm glad I'm getting the positive feedback from everybody regarding the builds and the shelves and the arena and the rings that I do. So again, I truly appreciate everybody tuning in and subscribing, and just, again, keep subscribing. If you haven't, tell a friend, share the post, whatnot. If you have any questions on the build, you could hit me up on Facebook, Rich Von Doom, or you could hit me up, leave a comment or question on here, and I'll try to do my best to get back to you. But again, just to kind of picture my build here, and this is it. We're going to go row by row shortly and go through every single one of these figures. But again, thanks for tuning in. Have a great evening, everybody, and happy holidays.